She didn't write out loud.
Emily, how are you? It's Tom on. Yeah, I'm just
I was sweating out all the
Okay, all right.
Is this yours? I think that's yours. And that's your stop button or your easy button.
Accidentally hit it while we were.
Yeah, remember that?
I didn't realize you could actually set it off with the lid on.
Or someone gave it to you to get it.
No, actually after Harry Pearl came.
Oh, Harry Pearl. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't get that many emails from him anymore. Does he like slow down? I saw something very recent.
started. Let the meeting of the Rochester City School Board monthly business meeting begin. We will start with a second, if I can indulge you, please. As you may or may not know, our President, Malik Evans, lost his mom this week, and our thoughts and prayers go to the Evans family. So I just wanted to take just a second, a minute of silence to think about the family and to wish them well as they go through this endeavor. So if I may do that.
Moment of silence.
Moment. Can we have a moment of silence, please? Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll begin the meeting with the act of reverence, the Pledge of Allegiance, which will have Mr. Powell lead for us.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll go to the next item on our agenda, which is the recognition of the recipients of the Alberta Moss Scholarship Fund. And I want to introduce Mary Thomas for the scholarship recognition, if we may. Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Vargas and esteemed. Okay.
Oh, yeah, let's do that.
Again, good evening, Superintendent Vargas, to the esteemed members of the Board of Education for the Rochester City School District, and to each of you here this evening. My name is Mary D. Thomas, and I have the honor to present our recipients for the Alberta Moss Scholarship. For those fortunate enough to have known Alberta Moss, the characteristic that shone the brightest was her deep faith and her passion to help others, especially children. She carried her city school district work into her own home, where it served as a classroom and halfway house for many. She was a faithful board member of Faith in Action Network of Rochester, and to honor her, the Alberta Moss Scholarship Fund was established to give a hand up to promising students. Bert, as affectionately known, was a woman of passion and purpose who believed that education, rather than intimidation, was the key. The scholarship serves as one way to honor her selfless dedication. On June 5th, 2012, the Alberta Moss Scholarship Committee awarded 6 students who met the criteria set forth for scholarships of $1,000. And each student will have the privilege of working with a mentor from the board and the Faith in Action Network of Rochester. It is a pleasure for me to introduce 4 of our scholarship recipients with us this evening. 2 of them, because of other commitments, could not be with us. As I stand this afternoon, we have Lisa Elam with us, and Bonnie Rubenstein and Gail Mott as some of the members that worked with us the year long to make this successful for 6 of our students. If you will please join me as I call your name, each student, would you please come forward? This evening we have with us Tanisha Barr. Tanisha Barr is the daughter of Michelle Sinkler, an Edison High School honor roll and high honor roll student, as well as an Urban League Black Scholar. Tanisha plans to attend Buffalo State College, where she will study industrial engineering. We're very proud of you, Tanisha. Nautica Graham, would you please join us? Nautica is the daughter of Donna and Wallace Mabry, and a National Honor Society and an Urban Black League Scholar. She's a graduate of the School of the Arts. She will attend Buffalo State College and study early childhood education. Congratulations again, Nautica. Ayan Mohammed, would you please join us? Ayan is the daughter of Doyle Eagle and a graduate of Thomas Jefferson High School. She is an honor roll student and has perfect attendance. She will study human services at Monroe Community College in the fall of the year. Congratulations, Ayan. Luis Rivera Cruz, please join us. Luis is the son of Miguel Cruz, graduate of James Monroe High School, is valedictorian of his class, as well as being a high honor roll student. He will study business management at Nazareth College in the fall of the year. We're very proud of you, Luis. And two of our students who could not be with us this evening, Yumana Dake, daughter of Gopal and Rupa Devi Dakaka, a Joseph C. Wilson Magnet High School honor roll and high honor roll graduate. She will attend Monroe Community College and study nursing. Kimberly Hill could not join us this evening, but she's an honor roll and high honor roll graduate of the School of the Arts. She's the daughter of Gloria Hill and will be studying nursing at Monroe Community College. A round of applause for our recipients. To Superintendent Vargas and the Board of Education, and to each of you, thank you so much for allowing us this evening to bring the first recipients of the Alberta Moss Scholarship and present them to you. Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you.
Congratulations to all of the scholarship winners, and thank you, staff, for putting that together. It's always heartening to see our students do well, and we wish them and their families much luck in the future. Our next agenda item is speakers. On the agenda items, we do not have any speakers. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Approve the minutes.
Oh, okay. I flashed by the acceptance of the minutes. So can I have a motion to accept the minutes? Moved and seconded. The minutes are accepted. I'm sorry. All those in favor?
All right.
Anybody against or abstaining? Or all right. Minutes pass. So we don't have any speakers, any agenda items. We will then go to the superintendent's report. Superintendent Vargas.
Yeah, thank you, Vice President Cruz. Pleased to report to the board that the ITA and the district have reached an agreement for the APPR for the teacher-principal evaluation. And I want to thank Bethany. She has been our lead negotiator, along with a team of people that are too many to mention. For Beverly as well, who is here from Teaching and Learning. Sean Nunn wasn't here, but there are many other people that did play a key role. So I'm very pleased to announce to you that we will meet our deadline. So as you know, there are probably approximately $100 million that could be a risk if we had not reached this agreement. And of course, it's subject to the review of the State Education Department. And I look forward to report to you in terms of the outcome from that review. The In terms of staffing, we are meeting our goal. I want to thank the entire Human Resource Office, the people who work there. We have now today 98% of our staff members have been in place. That's a significant progress from year past. And that is important because we want our school to be ready. We want people to be thinking during the summer month to get ready for a school. In addition to that, in terms of getting ready for school in September, we are for the first time required that every school have at least 1 or 2 orientation before school open for parents. And I'm very pleased to tell you that people are working hard already to get ready for school. We just closed school about less than a week ago, and we're now entering the summer school period, and I want to report to you that we're seeing an increase of students that are now going to summer school for Regents exam. That is not a surprise to me because of the now the students of this graduating class that graduated in 2012 this past week are required to score 65 or more if they're in the general education population. So common sense would tell us that the student will have greatest challenge. The good news is that, as I said, they are not giving up. They are signing for summer school, and we also are giving them a longer time to prepare them. In the past, we have offered 10-day course, but that's no longer doable given the challenges. So, again, over 10,000 already have registered. Carolina, I don't know if she's here. Her staff is working incredible to make sure that we have a successful summer school this year. Old City High, we have a preliminary report. We have 540 students that are assigned to go to summer school there, and the work continues to make sure that, as we mentioned to you, a lot of those youngsters in Old City High are going to need from July to July if they are going to graduate, because many of them are far behind. So placement, I could thank Vicky Ramos. She's doing an incredible job, as well as the entire team. In terms of placing our students, they are all have been placed. Again, significant improvement from prior year. We no longer have family asking those that were within the system. Of course, it is quite possible that someone arrive and they do today or next week, and they will. And the work continues, but in terms of people that are within their system, attending city school today, they know where they're going to be next year, which was simple but not a simplistic goal that we have established. And again, thank you for everyone in the district, because it's a team effort to make that possible, and we have made significant progress in that regard. Last but not least, I cannot finish this report with telling you that I continue to be concerned with the number of students that are not coming to school, as it was demonstrated by the number of students that didn't show up to take the Regents exam. So if you don't show up to take your exam, obviously, I don't need to tell you that we have an impact on our student lives in terms of their ability to graduate. But I will have a breakdown. Commissioner Adams has requested on the number, and the number are unacceptable to me, and it's something that we're going to have to work this year, from year to come, in terms of making sure that we do everything we can to get our students to take the exam. We have to make sure that we have high expectation for our kid, and also we're going to need the help of everyone to do this. And we are going to analyze it and begin to work on this, because we no longer can allow this to continue if we are going to improve graduation rate and all the area that a student need to work on. So that concludes my report, Commissioner Cruz.
Thank you, Superintendent. Any questions for the Superintendent?
Vice President Cruz.
Commissioner Williams.
With regard to summer school, I just received a call, probably about around 4 o'clock or so. I have a parent who says that her son passed the grade, but wants to put her son in summer school to get additional education. She was told that because he passed, he couldn't be enrolled in summer school. So can you talk about the criteria for summer school? I also, additionally, I had her to contact Shirley Green because she indicated to me that her son was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome. So Ms. Green, you may be getting a call if she's here to this parent. So what's the criteria for being admitted to summer school?
Well, we have several, depending on the program. Like we have courses that kids can take for the first time. We also had the main emphasis for those kids that fail the course. But there's no reason if a youngster could benefit from summer school, and if we have room available, that we couldn't. So I would urge you to have the parents send me an email, and I will look into it.
Well, I asked her to contact Shirley Green, so if you can get the message back from Shirley, and then you all can make that connection. But I still need to understand what's the criteria, so that you're not saying that students who pass can't automatically is disqualified from summer school.
Actually, you bring in an excellent point, and I will say that if I was running a school building, and I do know that college readiness, you have to have, let's say, 75 in English, and you took the region and you scored 68, that you might want to encourage that youngster to put that emphasis to get ready. Also, there are multiple reasons why would you want a youngster to continue taking a course if it's possible in terms of finance and all the reasons, because we couldn't offer to 38,000, but to as many thousand students that we have during the school year. So there's the emphasis is the key here. I don't think that there's a criteria that say that we won't allow you to go.
Right.
However, it's quite possible that someone in the front line could misunderstand that, but the essence of if you look at our college readiness, for the past 3 years have been around 6% of the entire district. And the measure that the state uses is students scoring 75 and 80 on the exam. And I do know at least one principal that if the kid passed with less than 75, this particular principal makes an emphasis that the kid should continue to work on that course to do better. But that's something that I can take a look into the future as we look at this whole issue of college readiness. And also the GPA of our students I will submit to you. That is, we had it, last time I looked at it, from one quarter, 57% of our kids had a GPA or about less than 2.0. So if I was advising a student, I will continue to encourage them to have high expectation for them to work until they get to a point that they could get into, take advantage of what I call average opportunity. And the first thing that a college look at is your GPA. So I think that embedded in your question, there's an interesting assumption that perhaps we need to take a look at it to continue to emphasize to kids that the finish line is when we consider you ready for whatever endeavor you are planning to take at the graduation.
Mr. President. I just want to congratulate your administration, Dr. Vargas, and the work that went into preparing for the summer school program. It didn't start with the grading of the Regents exams. The different teachers identified students that were in danger of failing, or if you don't assume that they're going to pass the test. My daughter is an example, and I try to be philosophical about it and say, well, that's what being a parent is, and I am part of the parent constituency. I got so many robocalls telling me when the open enrollment for summer school was. If I didn't know it was a robocall, I would have called Linda Doesmore and say, take my name off your list, because she pulled a rabbit out of her hat and she doesn't have to go to summer school. But the point is that the planning for this happened well before the Regents exams were taken, much less scored. And likewise, if we, in our family, were to consider taking an additional course in the summer for enrichment or to get ahead of her coursework, the time to have the conversation isn't the week of the Regents. The time to have that conversation is with counselors months before summer, before the school year ends, so that the counselors can actually flag a seat in summer school for each child. And that's the way the planning has to be in order for anyone in the system to be able to say yes to a request like that. I think there probably will be seats available, but at this stage, a parent's going to have to wait and see who's a no-show for summer school, who should have been to summer school but didn't sign up for it, before we can know whether there are seats available.
Correct. Thank you.
But thank you and to your administration for being totally on top of that situation. I wish I hadn't gone through that experience, but as representing the parent constituency, I'm glad to know it works. The system works.
I just have a couple of other questions. With regard to the Regents exam of those students who did not show up to take it, do we have any feedback data at this point as to why they did not come to take the exam, Mr. Superintendent?
We are collecting that. We right now have the breakdown in the area that we experience more, and we have it right now school by school. We have the name, and we are analyzing that.
And my last question, request is, I understand that School Without Walls, the commencement, scored almost 20 percentages in terms of, is it test scores? Am I correct on that, Mr. Superintendent?
Last year graduation rate, they had the greatest increase.
Okay. I just want to, can you talk a little bit about what she did in order to do that?
Well, I do know that they, as you know, they, from what I saw there on my visit to that school, was I think that the entire staff was very concerned because the graduation rate the prior year wasn't what it needed to be, and I do believe I sense a need. Sense of urgency. Actually, I was in that school the first day that in September when school opened. I believe actually it was August 30. If I know, surprisingly, this in my conversation with the people there was an emphasis that they sensed that they could have done better, and they did. And I think that they also you have very dedicated. Group of educators there, and also they began to target services to kids in a more, systematic way. And I don't think they're leaving anything up to chance. I think that what Commissioner Power was saying, and that's extremely important to set the expectation that if you are at risk of making it, we communicate with them and we have a plan for you.
So they're number 2 in terms of our schools that have the highest graduation rate, so to be at 1. Where do they rank?
I had that number with me, but I do know that they rank the top 5.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions for the superintendent? Okay. There being none, thank you.
And just congratulate School Without Walls for all the work that they've done.
I did. That's one of the reasons as you know, the graduation rate to me is unacceptable as a district. But that school is one that we did talk about graduation there for that reason, because their effort pay off. And also, like I mentioned to you, that it seemed to me that the culture there right from day one. And I could tell you that last year I was a little disturbed by how we opened our school, and I could tell you the school that we're ready to receive children and the one that we're not. And that's why we have asked principal to make sure that they have an orientation plan that is paying attention to the needs of families, the needs of our teachers, and the needs of our students. And they were building that I went in, for example, that teacher didn't know which room they needed to be. And I understand I'm not putting that, I take full responsibility because last year we had a budget process that was very stressful. Thanks to this board, I think that we can tell our school that the reason we are planning early and allocating resources early is for a purpose. We want them to have a good summer, but we also want people to plan better. And even that makes a difference. Because we only have 180 days. If you miss the first week of school, getting people placed and located, and including students, that's problematic.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Last questions? Okay. All right, we'll go to board reports, starting with the Excellence in Student Achievement. Commissioner White.
Yes, Commissioner Cruz, the Excellence in Student Achievement Committee met on Monday, June 18th, to receive an update on the Youth in Transition Initiative. The details of that report are contained in a memo dated June 28, 2012, which you all have. It is worthy of highlighting some improvements that they've made to that system. There's a memorandum of understanding between the Rochester School District and other placement operations throughout the county. In the past, the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing. And these memorandums of understanding allow district employees to communicate with, for example, county employees, and not have as an impediment them not being able to get access to student records. There's a joint pre-discharge planning in process. There's also a planned positive school reentry, which is tied to the response to intervention teams. The committee also received an update on All City High program. All teachers and administrators are in place and ready to begin for the September of this upcoming school year. To date, according to Ms. Jordan, there are 1,183 students that are enrolled in All City High, with 53% of these students being on track to graduate on time. Only 8% of these students are 18 or older and have less than 3 credits, and that is good news. The majority of the students enrolled in All City High thus far are from Edison and Franklin. I wanted to know if Commissioner Adams wanted to add anything to that part of the report. I know I'm catching you off guard, but Commissioner Adams was part of that meeting, and there are some ongoing concerns that we have regarding All City High, but from my own observation, I know that Ms. Jordan is committed to addressing those. One of the concerns we had was regarding the reading program, and Commissioner Adams made this point, and I thought very eloquently. She asked Ms. Jordan, well, what reading program are we using for these kids at All City High? And Ms. Jordan responded, they were using Springboard. And we said, well, wait a second. How are our students doing on Springboard? How were these students doing on Springboard before? They were using it before, and the answer was yes. And we thought, well, why are we using Springboard for this new initiative if this is going to treat these students in a different, positive way? So I think, and there were some other issues that came up. You know, the old saying, if you keep on doing the same thing again and again and again, you're going to get the same results. So we raised that issue with respect to reading, but I think there were other issues as well. But again, I left that meeting feeling like Ms. Jordan was especially committed to having that school succeed, and everybody on her team was committed to that as well. Our next Excellent Student Achievement Committee meeting is Monday, July the 17th at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Commissioner White. Our next committee is Finance. Commissioner Powell.
Yes. Finance Committee met twice. Once last week on Thursday, on the Thursday, June 14th. We considered resolutions 831 through 843 and our monthly financial reports as usual. So let me start by offering up a motion to accept the monthly financial reports for May 2012.
There's a proper motion on the table to accept the financial
Second.
reports, seconded by Commissioner White. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The resolutions were routine for the most part. We had 3 procurement and supply contracts, educational facilities contract, and 1 information management and technology contract. Then we met again at 6:07 this afternoon and discussed 2 resolutions that were of an urgent nature because they are for summer school. One being the summer RTS contract to get our high school students to summer school. That is Resolution 853, and it is in your packet. And it was approved by the committee this afternoon. The second one, Aramark, is for roughly 2/3 of it represents food service for our summer school students, both elementary and high school. And the other third is essentially, Aramark is a subcontractor to us, and we have accepted the contract from the city to provide food for the summer rec programs. So it's a $500,000 contract for the food for summer school and for the summer rec programs, of which the city will be paying us on a contract basis for their share of that. That resolution was approved by the board. It is not in your packet. There is a placeholder number on it, and I might offer up that because Resolution 851 or 852 has been pulled, I would like to make a motion that this resolution for Aramark be substituted as Resolution 852.
There's a motion to replace the old 852 with the new 852, which is the Aramark resolution. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Motion's been second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Welcome, Mr. Evans.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Let's see. So if I didn't say it before, the committee did approve all of the resolutions brought before it with varying degrees of discussion. Our next Finance Committee meeting will be held July 19th, that's a Thursday, at 5:30 p.m. And that concludes my Finance Committee report. The only other thing I want to share with the board is that Big Five Conference of Schools is going to be holding its executive committee meeting here in Rochester the first week of August, either August 6th, 7th, or 8th. And I'm sure that anyone who would like to come in and join us would be welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Moe. Okay, our next committee report from Community and Intergovernmental Relations, Commissioner Elliott.
Thank you, Vice President Cruz. Let me take a moment of personal privilege to talk about a couple of things that I participated in. One is I had a report from Beverly Goucher about the firefighters public safety program. And to date, we have, I think it's a capacity for the Rochester Educational Center where they're going to be housed, 50 people, and we still have placements for 4. So I want to just thank Beverly and her team for the work that they've done regarding that. There's still some opportunity for the Emergency Communications Center, the 911. There are no people who are interested in that. We don't have any people recruited, but it is good pay. It's on a bus line, benefits, and so we're going to be promoting the opportunities for some of our students to serve, to be trained for that program as well. There's some of us here who also attended the facilities modernization groundbreaking ceremony for school number 50. A lot of people attended that. What I was also impressed about is the young men and women who we are training in the ROAR program, those people of color, to participate in this project as well. And so there were probably about 100 of those young men and women, all in hard hats, ready to go to work. So we're just very pleased, and I commend the Facility Modernization Project and Gilbane for that work that they've done around ensuring that we have people who live in the city who are going to be working on those jobs. And I do know that perhaps every person who's trained may not get a job, but what I'm really excited about is that we have some opportunities with some other companies to be able to help to place them. So we'll be talking about that in the future. And lastly, also attended along with Vice President Cruz, the 3-on-3 City Council and School District meeting over at the City of Rochester to try to discuss what things that we have in common that will help us to become more efficient as two municipal entities. Unfortunately, the Community and Intergovernmental Relations Committee did not meet, and I have to apologize to my committee members because I really got that confused. I thought that the budget hearing for approval was one date and it was something else. I really got that confused, and so I had canceled the meeting as a result of that, and I do apologize to my committee members. And the next Community and Intergovernmental Relations Committee, that date will be determined. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Elliott. We'll go to Board Governance. Commissioner Campos.
The Board Governance Committee has not met since the last business meeting, but we'll be meeting in July to discuss and outline a process for an evaluation tool for the superintendent, as well as forward what we've been using in the past so that the superintendent can take a look at it and see if it suffices, so that we can bring it to the full board for acceptance at the July business meeting. We have been in the midst of our board staff reviews, even though we haven't been meeting. The Wellness Task Force also met, and we recently adopted the wellness policy in the 2 schools. It's going really, really well. There's been notable improvements, including healthier vending options, community gardens, use of exercise cards to supplement recess periods. So this year the policy goes into full effect for the entire district. So we're working on ways that we can monitor and monitor the policy. And just a quick point of personal privilege, I got to go to East graduation as well as the GED graduation and the graduation for the LPNs at the Family Learning Center. And the program for the LPNs, they have 99% job placement. So it's just one of the gems that's in our district. It was absolutely amazing, and a bunch of them could not even come to their graduation because they were working. So it's just great to be able to see that at the Family Learning Center, being able to help people get employment and get them educated for employment as well. That concludes my report.
I got a couple of things. Can I speak?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I forgot a couple of things. Two is Commissioner Campos reminded me. I did attend the graduation ceremony for School Without Walls as well as Charlotte High School. And with regard to the LPN, we are getting some information that some of the hospitals may not be hiring LPNs in the future. So that's something that we're going to have to, I did mention it to Beverly this morning, that's something that we may have to advocate for. Because many of our students are in that program, and it's a good salary, you know, for our students to work in the hospital, good benefits, but now some of the hospitals are saying that they're not going to accept LPNs, they're going to accept RNs. My concern about that is many of those LPNs are women of color, and so we have to make sure that we begin to look at why are they not going to hire LPNs. So that's going to be something that's going to be forthcoming in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Elliott. That's a great point. We'll go to the Audit Committee. Commissioner Adams.
The Audit Committee was not scheduled to meet in June. The next scheduled meeting is July 23rd at 6 p.m.
Thank you. And we don't have a student rep this evening. Parent council report. Ms. Lucas.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Candace Lucas. I'm the current president of the Rochester City School District Parent Advisory Council. The Parent Advisory Council is a volunteer organization of parents responsible for sharing, promoting, and communicating information between parents and the district offices and vice versa. We operate in collaboration with the Office of Parent Engagement, with the assistance of Gladys Pedrazo-Burgos and Willie Robinson. Gladys and Willie have been instrumental in working with the parents to help us understand the dynamics of the district and navigate our way through the system. The council advises district staff, the superintendent's office, and the Board of Education on policy issues that benefit all district children. Actively encourages parents to participate in the city's educational system at all levels, and advocates for the involvement of parents from the inception to the implementation and evaluation of policies and regulations related to the education of the city's children. Parents of the council sit on many of the school board committees, including policy, finance, excellence in student achievement, community and intergovernmental relations, facilities modernization, and the executive school-based planning team. The council will hold elections tomorrow, June 29th, to decide the new executive committee, which includes the chair, vice chair, secretary, and parliamentarian for the 2012 to 13 school year. Upon election of the new executive committee, the council will begin planning for the next year. So this may be my last report. The council was pleased to meet with members of the board and the superintendent at our last Parent Advisory Council business meeting. We thank the commissioners and the superintendent, it was Commissioner White, Campos, and Adams, for taking the time to meet with us and have a robust conversation about our concerns. We also thank the superintendent for sharing his plans for the district's future. As parents, we value these opportunities to meet with our district leaders, and we want to be partners in the future of the district. However, we continue to urge our leaders to keep these conversations going and to heed the recommendations and concerns of parents when making decisions that affect our children. Some of those concerns include, one, the use of school-based planning teams as the governance bodies at schools. At the last board meeting, it was erroneously stated that only 12 of our schools were out of compliance with the requisite number of parents. That would be 3 parents on each school-based planning team. The fact is that 27 of our schools are out of compliance with that number. And of the ones who do list having 3 parents, we are skeptical about because we have found many errors in those listings. One, the parents listed were incorrect. The parents had moved out of the district. Their children had already graduated from the schools, or the parents weren't attending meetings because they couldn't make it at the time that they were scheduled. So it is imperative that the board hold the superintendent accountable and the superintendent hold the principals accountable for ensuring we have fully functioning school-based planning teams where all constituencies are represented, fully informed of their responsibilities, and are engaging in the work of the team. Secondly, the extended learning days. Again, we commend the superintendent for taking the issue of graduation rates in some of these failing schools head on and trying to implement innovative ways of working with our children. However, parents have some concerns about the effectiveness of longer days. One, if the question is time on task, are we sure that the time spent during regular school days is being used effectively? We've heard concerns from parents that their children are spending time watching movies that have nothing to do with the educational process, and or a lot of the time is being spent disciplining students, talking, and not working. So we want to make sure that the time during the regular school days is being used effectively before we have children going into longer school days. Also, if the issues are teachers, unfortunately we do have some teachers that are not as effective as others. We want to know what's being done to help those teachers become more effective, because spending longer days with ineffective teachers are not going to help our students either. Thirdly, We want to ensure that schools are welcoming environments for parents. The superintendent this year is taking a bold step by stating that all schools must have an orientation for their parents. We think that there are other things that can be done globally by the superintendent that can ensure that schools are more welcoming to our parents. If the parents don't feel welcome going to the school during the day, they're also not going to go in the evening. They're not going to go regardless of how many dinners we provide, child care we have, or transportation that we afford them. So those are just some of the issues that we were looking at this year. And after elections tomorrow, we'll be planning for the following school year. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Lucas. I want to congratulate you on the work that you've done with the Parents Council this year, and with the staff support. You've done a great job of really giving the Parents Council a great voice, and we do depend on the work that you do with the parents in terms of the work that we're doing to get that kind of immediate interface and that feedback as well. So I want to congratulate you on your work and thank the Parent Council for this year's work, and look forward to this coming year.
Thank you.
Vice President.
Yes, Commissioner Shirley.
Can we get those reports in writing?
Yes.
Okay.
That would be, yeah, great point. If we can do that, that would be helpful. And we'll enter them as part of the record.
Okay. I'll send it to Shanae.
Thank you. Last report is my policy committee report. We met on June the 14th. I'll make it very brief. We discussed proposed hiring and recruitment policy, transportation options, and the proposed amendment to the responsible bidders policy. With regard to the hiring and recruitment policy, I want to thank Commissioner Elliott, who brought this issue to us very early on, and was very interested in how we hire our folks and giving preference to those who have experience in the district, and also getting our staff to move into the district and own properties. We had a number of discussions with regard to this policy, many hours. The staff did a tremendous amount of research, and we came together with a policy you have in front of you this evening that's information. It's an informational item, but I think begins to at least discuss some of these major concerns that we've had, giving preferential hiring to individuals who have graduated from high schools that are in urban populations, also individuals who have had experience in volunteering and working with urban youth, having been to the city school districts, schools, and also being able to benefit by receiving assistance, employee assisted housing initiative from the city of Rochester, and our program that offers $3,000 to cover closing costs for anyone interested in purchasing property in the city as members of the school district staff. So these are the kinds of things that we're looking at in terms of how do we entice people to come to live in the city, to be a part of the city families, and to really understand the kinds of issues that our city has, as opposed to living in other areas, and be an integral part of our staff. And I want to thank Mr. Johnson and Deborah Flanagan for the great work they did and the research putting this together. So again, this is an informational item for you this evening, and we can certainly talk about that a little later. Policy Committee also reviewed related issues regarding transportation, and for the first time really looking at how do we strengthen the zones to, number one, save some of the money that we do spend. I believe we spend about $52 million a year on transportation. It is a major part of our budget, and we're looking at ways that we can reduce that expense. Potentially hardening the zones is one way. We're looking at what are those things we can do now that are within our power to be able to do. And then once we've gone through those, take a look at what may be some policy issues that we contend with in order to do that. This is an issue that we're taking very carefully. We're being very sensitive to it because it could be disruptive if we don't implement this correctly. So this is an important part of the whole idea of how do we get to a point where we can provide transportation to all our children and do it in a cost-effective way. The committee and Vicki Ramos is going to be a part of the continued research on this, and our staff will also be helping with that as well. Finally, we have amendments to the proposed responsible bidders policy in accordance with recommendations of the Diversity Committee. The policy will allow for the purchasing officer to consider a bidder's non-discrimination policies and demographic characteristics of their full-time working staff in terms of determining whether a person is considered responsible. This policy committee approved the amendments and has proposed it this evening also as an informational item. The second, lastly, is that we submitted for your consideration this evening an amendment to the Code of Conduct, the district's policy against harassment of students and employees. These amendments are to incorporate the requirements of the Dignity for Students Act, which is a federal act that it goes into effect on July 1st. For this reason, we asked to fast-track this, and we're requesting that this policy be expedited and voted in this evening's package for approval. And the third, lastly, I would like to provide an update regarding our status of the condom availability program. We have received word from the New York State Commission of Education that they did receive our package and our information, and they are reviewing it. And the School Health Advisory Council has been formed to make recommendations regarding the program implementation, content, and evaluation. And we hope to receive word from the state on after their review of the program, and we look forward to the implementation and training over the summer. I want to thank Gladys Burgos and her staff for the work they did in putting together. We had a meeting of a committee. There were, Gladys, real quick, how many people were there at the committee meeting? 25 people showed up to the committee meeting from all different walks of life, from different perspectives of the community. It was a great discussion, and I think the interest in this particular policy is very, very important to going forward. So, again, thank you, Gladys, for the work that you've done. That being the case, our next meeting is July the 19th, immediately following the Finance Committee. Thank you all for the work that you're doing on the committees. We will now go into consideration of resolutions. Our first part of the resolution package is 805 through 830. If I can have a motion to... I'm sorry, I'm getting comments from our clerk. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Motion to move up 868.
Oh, okay.
So moved.
All right. We have yeah, just let it go by itself. It'll get there. So motion to move 868 on the agenda before we get to the rest of the packages.
You said move it?
Move it up.
On the agenda?
Move it up on the agenda.
Okay.
That's cool.
Okay.
You looking for a motion?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
I just gave it.
Well, you have a motion from Commissioner Elliott. Seconded. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So we are going to be discussing the contract of employees for the superintendent of schools, City of Rochester. No. I didn't think so. All right. So we have the motion, the resolution.
First by Commissioner Elliott, second Commissioner.
Yep.
I thought compost.
It doesn't make any difference.
All right. So it's 868. Okay. All right. If we can take a look at 868. All right. Comments?
Yes, Mr. Vice President, I'll get us started here. I will not be voting in favor of Resolution 868, principally because I believe the process for selecting the superintendent was flawed and unfair. There's no reason for me to go into the details, as I have noted my objections to the process at length in previous hearings. While it is no secret that I have concerns regarding some management and communication decisions of Dr. Vargas as of late, it is important to note that I am committed to working with Dr. Vargas in a respectful and diligent manner to make our schools safe and so all of our students can be successful, a goal which I know he is deeply committed to.
Any other comments on resolution number 868? There be no further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
We show one opposition. Commissioner White.
Thank you.
All right. 868 passes. Congratulations, Superintendent Vargas. I just want to say that I want to congratulate you. We look forward to working with you as superintendent of the Rochester City School District. I know that we've got a lot of expectations of you. We've got a lot of hope, and we're encouraged, obviously, with the work that you've done up until now, but we've got a long way to go to get this district to where we need to go. But I think with your leadership and our support and our leadership in terms of the vision and mission of this organization, we're going to get there. Yeah. So I want to thank you, and we look forward to continuing working with you.
Thank you. I want to thank the board and everyone who works in the district and the family and the students. And I just want to be short. My most sincere thanks to you is I believe that I'm the first superintendent in many years that have received a 4-year contract. I have a commitment to stay. We had to change the culture of this district, that a children's center is centered around the needs of our kids, not the needs of the superintendent, or for that matter, the needs or any other adult. Having said that, 4 years is enough for me to show you some significant progress. I haven't made a single promise that I'm going to change graduation rate for you, and that is for a reason, because we have a lot of business to take care of before we get there. One of them, for example, I sincerely believe that with the behavior and the culture that we have in the district today, it is impossible to improve graduation rate. So that's the first thing that I have intended to change, and I will continue to try to do that. How we are going to do that, we are going to say, for example, that it's no longer acceptable for a school to open the door. We're having a clear plan in how to improve student achievement, serve our family, and yes, provide the support that teachers and the students and other members of the school community need. And I'm so pleased to work for a board that understands that I don't think that there's any board that is so positioned that understand that we do need more time for our students. It's no longer acceptable to think that you send a kid at 1:15 in the afternoon, at least on Wednesday, and you send that student with a lot of homework and project to do, only to come back the next day with all the work done, and for us as an adult to discuss the various challenges that they face. They do face challenges, but they can learn. But we have to give them the time and the support that they need. And that is the primary goal that I believe and so that we are partnered on this effort. And you have demonstrated to me twice already. We have 2 schools that next year are going to open to provide our students more support and more time for learning. It defies common sense to think that you're going to add more to our curriculum, more demand for our students to learn more, to get a region diploma, and yet you're not changing the time. It is possible all our students will learn if we give them the time and support that they need to do so. The same message you go to our community. Time is not just I'm not talking about just the time that our children are spending at school. We also have to be more focused in how they spend their time during the school break, during summer. Yes, I expect every parent and every member of this community to encourage our youngsters to read independently for the joy of learning. Yes, I expect our family to have a library card for our students. That is possible whether you are facing challenge or whether you are not. I was very touched the other day that I went to the Monroe County Jail to visit some of our students, and the interesting thing was that many of them were reading and had books. I visited one of these jails where there were about 3 books in there. That tells me that our students, if we raise out the expectation they will rise to that occasion. But I will conclude by thanking each one of you. Many of you work so hard, and it goes unrecognized. And you share an incredible passion for this community. And I know this community has an incredible passion for our students. But it's time that we turn our focus to our students, stop the politics, let me repeat, stop the disagreement among one another, and we need to come together. I'm very proud to say to you today is a classic example of what we did here with the ITA. We were among the first, if not the first, in New York State to come with an agreement about the teacher evaluation, which is rather challenging. And it has a lot of things that should concern all of us. But that shouldn't stop us from reaching an agreement and moving forward. Once again, thank you. And I want to thank President Evans. I promising a year ago that I will not let him down. And I want to say as he experienced the loss of his mom, which is very difficult. President Evans and each one of you, I will do my very best not to let you down.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll now go into considerations of resolutions. Now we can do that? Thank you. First series of resolutions is 805 through 830. I have a motion to accept 805 through 830.
So moved.
It's moved by Commissioner White, seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Elliott. Any questions or concerns about 805 through 830?
Vice President Cruz.
Yes, ma'am.
The resolutions 825 through 830, typically I don't support any of those extra payments for various things because it has not shown that it translates into higher test scores or graduation rates, so I typically don't support these. I'm also, and Mr. Superintendent, I'll ask you about this at another time, but let me just put it on the record now. These are for summer sessions, but when these resolutions come before us during the school year, my question is that a form of double dipping? And so I won't ask that. I mean, I'll put that out there right now, but you can give me an answer at another time. That occurred to me as I was going through these resolutions. But I'd like to pose an amendment because I won't support these extra payments, but I will support the resolution 825 for School Without Walls because of the work that they have done. So I'd like to make an amendment to separate, and I did have the page number, but they're 825. There are two resolutions that the principal director is Dr. Adonia Cross there. I will support those, and so, yeah. Well, look at where 825 is.
So there's a motion on the table to sever out 825 from the bundle.
Page 24, yes.
Is there a second?
24.
Second.
Second by Commissioner White. All those in favor to sever?
Aye.
Opposition?
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll sever out 825.
Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
I need to sever out that's 822 as well. My son is subject for removal, and I want to abstain from that. And I want to support the entire rest of the packet, but of course I don't want to.
So there's
I shouldn't vote.
Motion to sever out 822.
No. One person in that packet, Brandon White. See, I want to vote for the rest of the resolution, but I don't. I want to be able to support the rest of the superintendent's effort to reduce the budget and reduce those employees, but I cannot vote.
So we would
see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So you would have to offer an amendment to take out that one name from the
That's
packet,
right.
from
That's
822.
Call it 822B.
Called 822B.
822B. So we'll
That's
create
right.
822B.
That's right.
All right. And 822B severs out the one name.
That's right.
But keeps everything else whole.
And then I have another amendment.
Well, hold
okay.
on.
All right.
So there's a motion to sever out one portion of 822 and make it 822B. Is there a second?
Well, did we take care of the one for 825?
We're separate it. We'll talk about it later.
Okay, our board, the clerk is saying, no, we did not.
Guess we didn't
That's
vote
on
on it.
page 19 and 20.
Guess we didn't vote on it.
We did.
We did.
We had a motion
But
to
we
sever,
didn't.
but
Did
we
we
didn't
do?
vote.
I don't think
We didn't voted. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm sorry. Let me go back. 825, there's a motion to sever out 825. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second. Any objections? Okay. Now we'll go back to 822. We're creating 822B with severing a piece of that information from 822. There's a motion to create 822B. All those, motion? Second?
No, actually, I was looking to the clerk for direction. She was trying to say something to me, but that's right. She says, never mind. Is there a second?
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Adams.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Objections? Okay. Do you have that, Madam Clerk?
Sure does.
Commissioner White intended to take another action.
That's right. And
So you want, wait, I want to get them one at a time here.
Yes, sir.
So
I got
that's
that.
one there at 820. Okay, so you're all that one. Okay. Commissioner White.
Thank you, sir. I have another one that I'd like called out from the 822. I guess it would be C. Is that right? 822C, the proposed amendment. It would be Christine Richards. I need to talk about that in executive session.
All right.
And I want to support the superintendent's initiative here, but I don't want to vote on that
So
one.
there's an amendment to create 822C,
Yes, sir.
lacking that one particular individual.
That's right.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Okay. Do we hear a D?
No, sir. I'm done.
All right. All right. We're good. Okay. All right. We'll have to walk our way through this one. All right.
Okay.
Any other objections to 805 to 830? We have a motion on that, right? So we have a motion on the package, so we just go to vote?
Are we voting on all of the amendments, the separate resolutions also? Which separate resolutions are being?
Well, one of them is executive session.
825.
820?
C is.
Yeah.
I mean, we could take a vote on everything, but in 805.
822B, 822C. So we're voting on everything.
825B.
No,
Isn't that 820?
no, because you're taking out
Yeah.
825, right?
Yep.
The whole thing.
So it's everything in the bundle except for 825, 822B, and 822C.
What happened
That-
to 825B?
We're going to vote on it separately.
Oh, okay, so
Yours
these
is
are,
separate.
these other ones,
Separate.
okay.
Yeah, we're doing everything except for those ones that we pulled out of the package. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any objections?
No.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to go to, all right. So we voted, so we did the amendments. All right. All right. So now we're going to go back to the amended part of this. So 822B is a motion to accept 822B.
So moved.
Seconded? Seconded?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of 822B?
Aye.
And that was the removal of one individual,
And I'm abstaining from that.
and you're abstaining from
And my
that.
vote is no.
And there's a no, Commissioner Elliott? Okay. Then we're going to go to 822C.
Oh, we want to talk about that in executive session.
Okay, so we're going to remand 822C to executive session. Then there's 825B. All in favor of 825B?
Aye.
Any objections? Okay, so that do it. Does that completely confuse you, Madam Clerk?
She got it.
You got it? Oh, you're good.
Smart.
She's good. She's good.
Very good.
Because you're going to have to explain it to us later. All right. The next bundle is procurement and supplies. Do I have a motion for 831 to 834? Moved by Commissioner Elliott, seconded by Commissioner Powell. Any questions or concerns?
Yes, 834. I just need to understand why we're entering into an agreement with the purchasing director from BOCES, Monroe County BOCES. I don't understand that relationship.
Hi, Gary.
Page 81.
I was going to field it, but I saw you were already on your feet.
No, I want you to tell me.
Gary, please.
Not reliable.
Be glad to. Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
This is a resolution that we present to the board annually. It allows the district to enter into any cooperative purchasing agreements that BOCES 2 does, BOCES 2 Orleans. They do several cooperative bids with all the school districts in Monroe County. And the one in particular that we use annually is the natural gas bid.
Okay.
And this allows us to participate in that bid.
And we get it cheaper with this relationship?
Yes, it's basically all the school districts in Monroe County, including the Rochester City School District, that leverage the amount of natural gas that we purchase.
What other things do we purchase in this relationship?
That is the only one at this time.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions regarding A31, A34? Thank you, Gary. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Objections? Okay. Next is educational facilities, 835 to 842.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Elliott. Any questions or concerns? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Objections? Okay. All right. The other section,
Oh, what?
No,
Gary,
information
pass
technology. got it.
Information technology?
43.
I'll move 843, information technology.
Second.
840, I'm sorry. Okay, that was stuck in there.
It's all by itself.
Just for the record, Mary Adams, did you want to abstain from 842, by the way?
Yes, and 846 as well.
840, the record show
42
that,
and 846 abstain.
yes, let's show that Commissioner Adams is abstaining from 842,
We haven't
846.
voted on
Sorry.
846 yet.
All right, so 842, at least 842, want to show that. And Commissioner White, you took care of 822.
Since we're house cleaning here, it should have been reflected, well, he's not here to vote anyway.
Yeah, he's,
Malik is not here anyway. Sorry.
so we have a motion at 843.
Yes, it's been moved.
The move second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? Okay, other.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
could we sever Resolution 862? I'll put that in a motion, as a motion.
So motion to separate
Second.
862 from that bundle,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner White.
And does anyone have an interest in discussing Resolutions 850 and 851, which are policy adoptions, separately, or do we just want to keep them rolled up into the consent agenda?
It's a pleasure. Is there any objection to just keeping them where they
Nobody
are?
has anything to add?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
There are two policy amendments
Yes.
that are in the packet. Usually policy, this is the last chance to say something about the policies we're adopting.
Yeah, 850 is the harassment of students policy that we've reviewed, and the code of conduct policy that we've talked about.
Just to cover bases, because we are expediting the harassment policy, motion to waive the policy adoption and
Okay,
amendment
let me just
policy.
let me make sure that we're all set. So, did we vote on 862? No.
That's what she's asking, too.
862 is the one I'm
There's
asking.
a motion to sever 862
Oh,
on
we
the
didn't-
table yet. We haven't voted
We
it.
haven't voted to
So-
sever it.
All those in favor of severing out 862?
Aye.
Aye.
Objections? Okay.
Just because one of the policies does require that we waive our own rules, might we please sever the two policy resolutions?
851, 852, sever those out?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
So we will take them out of the bundle.
Repeat those, which ones? 850?
850, sorry, 850 and 851.
850 and 851, yes. It's more for formality purposes.
Okay.
And why is that necessary?
We're fast-tracking these. We have to waive our own policy adoption rules. It's like waiving the 48-hour rule.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we're not doing the normal 3 months review. We're getting
Procedural.
because we have to have this done for July.
Okay.
So we have a motion to accept the bundle except for those resolutions that have been severed out. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any objections? All right, so let's go back to 850, 851. Is there a motion to accept those?
Before we move those, let me at this time move that we waive our 3-step policy adoption process. I can't cite the policy off the top of my head, but
There's a motion to
waive
waive the
policy.
the normal 90-day adoption policy, which involves information, introduction, and passing of adoption. Given that these particular resolutions have to be complete before July 1 to adhere to the federal policy. So motion's on the table.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner White. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Objections? Okay.
Motion to approve both policies, 850 and 851.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And we go to 862.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Pearl?
The board shouldn't be the least bit surprised that I am upset, concerned about Resolution 862. This resolution its function is to change a Wilson Magnet Foundation Academy to a K-8. As you know, and I don't need to go into great depth about this, I've objected to the K-8 movement, and so it's not of much use to me to see a list of all of the K-8 resolutions that we have approved in the past. I think if you look them all up, you'll find that I've opposed most of them. But this particular one is more egregious to me than most, in part because we heard the superintendent tell us that we would go broke trying to convert our K-8s from a physical plant standpoint. Here we have the Wilson Foundation Academy, which is the last new building this district has ever built. The last new building that we have built, and we are going to have to go in and do physical plant changes to make it accommodate kindergartners, first graders, second graders. That strikes me as very problematic. Number two, we also heard him say that if we don't continue on a path of converting K-6s into K-8s, we won't have a place for the 7th and 8th graders. And yet here we are with a Wilson conversion that takes seats away from middle school age students. In order to make Wilson Foundation Academy a K-8, you actually have to shrink the number of kids who are 7th and 8th graders. You are taking away 7th and 8th grade seats, creating the very problem that in future school decision-making we will have to create new seats for. Thirdly, and perhaps most importantly, one of the issues that was presented to us around school closures there was a recommendation to close school number 2. Why? Because there were with school 2, 3, and 4 all clustered together, there weren't enough students in the immediate neighborhood to fill those schools. They were all under-enrolled, but number 2 school in particular. With this conversion proposal, we create an even more severe case of we're going to create more elementary school seats, taking them away from the middle school population, which we need, creating more elementary seats in a neighborhood that is already under and does not have enough children to fill the seats that are already there. All of the past resolutions about K-8 I have opposed essentially on the grounds that there is inadequate evidence to support, or presented to the board to support it. It's good for 7th and 8th graders, has been argued, but no one has shown that it doesn't have a detrimental effect on those in K-6. Here we have a complex web of logistical issues where we are creating a problem that we will later have to fix. I think there should have been a moratorium before now. We heard the superintendent tell us, the last line of this is resolved that the superintendent's March 2010 school portfolio plan be hereby be and amended accordingly. Yeah, our superintendent told us this is our plan. He's going to have to go forward with it until he gets direction from us to change course. I'm asking this board now to either stop the trajectory or out and out change course before we get ourselves into a mess that we can't undo.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Adams?
Just as a resident of this neighborhood living on Arnett and using the Madison building since my 19-year-old was a little kid, I would like to acknowledge the accuracy of the fact that there are a number of elementary schools in that neighborhood, and not making any evaluative judgment on the IB model or the model of this new proposed school. I would say that it's pretty clear to us in the neighborhood that the school is not for the neighborhood. So along with other movements, in terms of facilities driving things and other past threatened school closures and so on, this represents yet another move away from neighborhood small elementary schools that I believe the vast majority, no, I don't believe, I know the vast majority of our community values neighborhood elementary schools. So I just want to uphold that and agree with that there are a lot of elementary schools in the neighborhood that are doing well, that particular school is not really intended to serve the neighborhood children, and that building has a history of tension and conflict around that particular potential conflict. Thanks to the administration for answering some questions that I had submitted in writing about this proposal, but I'm still not clear because one of my questions was, didn't this resolution already get approved by the board to transition that building to a K-8? And the answer was that yes, it had, and I'm well aware that there is already a transition in progress at the building. So isn't this redundant? I'm still not clear. If it was already approved in the past, why are we passing this particular language or being asked to pass this language this evening? And then also, specifically when would the facilities adjustments, building changes start? The answer was this summer, but what is the actual start date? And I just want to say for the record, I would like to call a timeout, a moratorium, and stop that process and revisit and have the board take a chance, take time to really discuss overall strategic plan and be more intentional about this. So there are a couple questions that I had regarding.
Mr. Superintendent, do you want to
Is
address
this redundant?
Yeah.
Is this a redundant resolution?
Yeah,
and what is the date of actual physical work?
It's something that the board could do the research, but I think that they might have and again, I'm not clear to what degree this may or may not be true, that there might have been a glitch that this school wasn't included in the original proposal, but that the plan was put in place and to move forward, I believe. And you might be able to, that this year we did put in there a fifth grader, for example, right? And fourth?
We put in a fifth grade, off the fifth grade, we only had 4 students, so there will not be a fifth grade there, so it will be 6 through 8 and a kindergarten.
Okay. Yeah, so the plan was put in place, or in other words, being executed, but for whatever reason, there was a glitch that they didn't include it in the original resolution, because it should have been included, because last year we started to move forward with the plan. So again, I haven't, would you expect me to go and check prior resolution, but I do think that that's perhaps what's going on in here. I don't know if Jerome could answer the question in terms of the work that have been done in the facility.
The question that Commissioner Adams is asking is what the actual start date is for the work on the building.
In the 11-12 CIP, it calls out work on this building with respect to getting ready for the younger kids to be, for the building to accommodate the younger kids. This board approved those contracts within the past couple of months, and those contracts were just awarded within the past 30, 45 days. Since school just ended, no work, at least I don't know if anybody started today, because normally our contractors start as soon as school is done. So I'm not aware if any work started there today. There are some schools that work has started already, but the work is scheduled to happen this summer.
Commissioner White.
Yeah, my only concern is, and we've talked about this in a number of different venues, but the conversation about K-8 reconfiguration actually began some time ago under Dr. Vargas's predecessor, Jean-Claude Brizard. And, we used the committee process to sort of vet this whole idea. And we had experts, principals, teachers, in a setting just like this, and I believe it was a standing room only crowd in attendance. And overwhelmingly, and I can't speak to your concerns, and I know, Commissioner Powell, you and I have spoken about this offline, there are a number of people who believe that the research does not support that this is a good configuration. Let me tell you something. At that ESA meeting, there were plenty of people that said this was the right thing to do for our kids. So I'm a bit concerned about shifting when we go from one superintendent to the other. What our kids need is stability, and I think I heard Dr. Vargas say a couple days ago that you can make any model work if you implement it with fidelity and you're faithful to the charge of educating kids, and I believe that. And if we're always shifting from one mode or of operation to another, that can't be good for our families and our kids. So I just, I hear you, Commissioner Powell. I know that you are generally concerned about our kids in this configuration, but I got to tell you, people came to that committee meeting and they were generally concerned about embracing kids and keeping them and keeping them from K-8 at that critical emotional stage for our kids. And they were just as convincing as you are. So I'm concerned that if we, and I know this is not where your head is at, but if we sort of do the flavor of the month or the research that's put out there in front of us every 4 years or every 3 years, it's just not good for our kids. So, the moratorium, you got people with the hammers in their hands ready to go because somebody said, just as convincingly as you're saying now, K-8 is the right model. So we made a decision, and now people are saying, wait a second, it wasn't the right decision. This is, I think, why urban education suffers so much, because people can't make a decision and stick with it. And I believe Dr. Vargas is right on this point. And Bohan, you tell me if I'm misquoting you, but I think he said the other day, any model can work if you're faithful to that model and those kids. Did I have that pretty much right?
Yeah, correct. And if I might, I just want to advise the board that when you make a commitment to a community, and a commitment has been made, at least for this school, we did talk to parents when they were selecting, and I understand the concern of all the people and all the things, but this is not the time. And again, you have 60 building. We can, this September, we are going to begin a discussion which include, I think, Commissioner Adams and all the interests that have been expressed, but I would urge this board to support this resolution. If it, like I did mention to this board when you hire me, that I was not going to bring you a new approach, but I was going to work with what we have and bring a stability to the district. I do think that it is very dangerous in the absence or a larger discussion for you to begin to stop. First of all, we made a lot of commitment to a lot of family, including the model that the family who selected to send their kid to sixth grader, they already bought into this IBK 8. And let me just, again, the research is very clear and very convincing that a K8 model could be beneficial to some of our students because the children in the early age have more in common with the kid going to puberty and so on and so forth than the high school kid. Now, because we have different model, I will be telling you that the implementation with fidelity that Commissioner White is talking about is important. And I also, let me conclude by saying that if this district cannot go into a single model, because you go into a portfolio and also we cost you a lot of money as well. So the model that you have before you, definitely my suggestion is that you make the necessary adjustment, particularly when appropriate. This board and the community are going to have an opportunity to look at a facility plan, which is due to me in September, which will be used as a guidance for that larger discussion.
Commissioner Powell has a comment. And then
I know
Commissioner Adams.
Mary has concerns too. To respond to Commissioner White and the meeting that you're referring to, packed house, a lot of reliance on heartstring logic, including let us embrace our babies and keep them for another 2 years. And that was the argument used at School 16 in order to expand into the 7th and 8th grade. What was the real reason? Probably the real reason had more to do with the fact that their enrollment was low enough that if they didn't do something to keep their building full, they would be that school that was with a big bullseye on it that says close, due to low enrollment and low test scores and low everything else. That was the part of the conversation that didn't happen. Okay, what we figured it out later, didn't we? To our detriment. What's different about this one is all of those heartstring arguments about let's embrace our babies for 2 more years and keep them in that low nurturing environment. We're talking about growing this K-8 from the bottom. That is going to be a much harder course to change if and when we decide that this isn't appropriate anymore. It's not all that difficult to grow out the 7 and 8 and then say, this isn't really working for us. Let's go back to the junior, senior high school model, or at least for this building, let's go back to K-6. That's an easier course reversal to take than what's being presented to us with the Foundation Academy. And I have to apologize for not making the argument strong enough back when we were talking about facilities. The resolutions around the facilities were all hung up with contingent upon city council approval, and the issue of K-8, quite frankly, was buried. And I wasn't thinking of it at the time. So
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Adams.
I just want to say I'm coming at this from a very pragmatic point of view. This is in response to Commissioner White's appeal for stability. I could not agree more that we need stability. We need to minimize uncertainty among our families as much as possible. And but that sort of also goes to the point of, in recent weeks and months, Dr. Vargas and President Evans have been communicating to the community that there may be a need for downsizing, there may need to be closures and so on. That is really spreading the uncertainty throughout the whole district, and in terms of commitments to families of students who are in current schools, who are sending their children to schools with the expectation that they will be able to be part of that school community and grow that school community and contribute to it. That's as much an undermining of a commitment to our families as is the planning that has been done. And I was not aware that there was an issue with not finding enough fifth graders, only 4 fifth graders, to attend Wilson Foundation, but that should really inform the planning. If there's that low level of demand to go to that school, that should be a signal, along with all of the other concerns that have been raised, that many people are very satisfied with school number 2. Many people are very satisfied with school number 4 that are right in that area. So, I'm just asking that this is not, asking for a halt or a timeout on this is not in any way in the interest, from my perspective, of creating instability or constant change. Quite the contrary. I'm looking for a reasoned way forward. And then the cost is, and that's been raised for years, since the proposal to change the Madison building to an elementary school. It's been repeatedly raised.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. Okay. Any other comments or concerns?
Well, my only response to...
We'll wrap it up with you, Commissioner.
Yeah, my only response to Commissioner Adams and Commissioner Powell is I hear you, but our superintendent is telling us that he thinks this is the best thing for the district. And, we got to rely on his judgment. And we did before with Jean-Claude Bizard, and we should now. We can't litigate or figure out this issue here at the DS right now. We can't. We were given some direction quite a while ago, and he's giving us some direction now, and they're consistent. Right. And that's the kind of stability that our kids are entitled to through different superintendents.
Okay. Thank you. All right. We'll go to vote on this. All those in favor of Resolution 862?
Aye.
Objections?
Opposed?
Opposed by Commissioner Powell and Commissioner Adams. Let the record show. Okay. So that takes us through... That takes us through that package, right?
We didn't vote on all the other ones.
No, that was the other.
So we got to go back to it's got to go 844 through 873. Is that right? All right. So
minus the ones we've already talked about.
Minus the ones we resolved separately. All right. There's the motion on the table. And 867. Oh, let me thank you, Clerk, Madam Clerk. I'd like to move a motion to move 867 from the package and bring it up to new business. It's regarding information on School 28.
Yeah, I will.
Can I have a motion to do that so we can take it and move it on the agenda? Moved by Commissioner Elliott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner White. We're moving this from the package up to new business. Because we have when we call for new business.
Which resolution?
867.
867.
The one on School 28.
School.
We're gonna move it to a new business.
I thought we were pulling that from the agenda altogether.
There's some additional information that the superintendent wants to bring.
I would like if you come.
Hang on. I want to just get it out of the bundle and move it up to sever, but to move it to new business.
We have to finish the other resolutions.
Yes.
We got to finish the other one. So there's a motion on table, seconded by Commissioner.
It can be me.
All right. All those in favor of moving 867 to new business?
Aye.
Any objections? Okay. So let's go back to the original package. 844 minus the whole host of other resolutions that we have. You have them, Madam Clerk? Okay. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Objections?
863, no.
Wait, are we discussing or voting on it?
I'm voting.
No, I have a discussion.
On which one?
845.
All right, so, okay. All right, let's go back. There's further discussion on 845. Commissioner Adams?
Okay, I submitted a question about clarification. Sorry? This is for a facilitator across agencies regarding the Federal Safe Schools Healthy Students Grant. And thanks for the response, but I'm not clear on it because this is a 5-year grant that ends 1 year from now. And the answer was that we needed this grant-funded position to have a new, neutral, full-time project director to facilitate the work across these different agencies. But then it says this is for the full 5-year period. So is this a new position just to sort of wrap up the last year, or has it been filled by another individual the last 4 years? Just some clarity.
I probably wrote that vaguely, and I'm sorry about that. At the beginning of the grant, the requirement was a new neutral project director. We've had the same person for going on 5 years now.
Okay, so
and
this
she
is
will
just a
return
yearly
back
thing.
to the county when we're done.
Yeah, wait, once you wait.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on any other resolutions within the bundle outside of the ones we've severed out?
864, are we on that?
864? Yep.
No, I'm sorry.
That's it. That's it, page 130.
864. This is a grant-funded position, and I had asked some questions about what's the source of the grant, the term of the grant, the length, and so on. And the answer was that this is funded through a CDC grant via the University of Rochester from a period of September 30th, 2011 to September 29th, 2012. So that's just a couple months from now. And it's apparently a full-time administrative position with an annual salary.
As soon as we...
And it's a school health coordinator. And so my question was about credentialing in terms of physical education versus health and, the appropriateness of this grant position. So I still have questions and concerns about that, especially now with the time frame if it ends 2 months from now.
Dr. Vargas,
It's probably under.
is there anyone on staff that heard the question that could answer it?
Sorry, what was the question? What was the question?
Gladys is coming up.
A grant for a school health
Credentials.
coordinator.
Gladys, great.
This is a CDC grant that we were awarded to work with the community health from U of R. This is very specific to our coordinated school health program. It is an evidence-based program that pretty much looks at health in a holistic matter. That means physical activity, it means nutrition, it means establishing wellness committees in the schools as well. So this position basically is helping those schools establish their plan for integrating the coordinated health school program. It falls under physical education and health education, and that's all I know because I work very closely with Carlos Cotto, who's not here. So I thought at least I could give you that information on it.
Do you have any information about if the work has begun already or if the work is to begin now? And if the work is to begin now, is it only through September 2012, a couple months?
No, the work has started, but it's continuous as well.
With this individual?
That's my understanding.
This position?
Yes, this position.
Bethany,
It's the same.
I'm not sure exactly how to do this. Like, do I make a proposal to carve this out and consider it in executive session so that we can talk a little bit? Or after executive session? Okay. So
there's a motion to sever
Okay.
this from the package
864.
To take it, to charge it to executive session for this evening.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Elliott, seconded by Commissioner Elliott, moved by Commissioner Adams. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So 864 goes to executive committee.
Executive session.
Executive session. All right. Is there anything left to vote on?
Well, I'm voting no on 863.
All right. So we're back to the original motion, bundle 844 to 873 minus all of the resolutions we've severed out that have been captured by Madam Clerk. All right. So all those in favor? All those in favor of accepting the bundle 844 through 873 with the severed resolutions taken out?
Aye.
Aye.
Any objections?
863.
Abstain, 846.
863, Commissioner Elliott said no. Is there any others? There's we show an abstention.
No, that's wrong. Mary, should, Richard, you're going to talk about it after.
No, that's something
846 is
separate.
one that's the U of R, and
Right,
I'm
that's separate.
abstaining from it.
Yeah, it's an abstention. Okay.
What was your other? 863?
All right. Again, any objections? Okay, motion passes. All right, so we're all set there. Okay, we've got that done. What we're going to do is now new business. We got several items. Two are proposed for informational items from the policy committee in terms of proposed recruiting and hiring policy.
Can I just make a comment on that?
You may.
I just want to thank the policy committee and the board for considering this hiring policy. I think about the article that was in the paper a couple of Sundays and Mondays ago with School 9 and the work that Bernice Green is doing over there, or the work that Adonia Owens is doing, and some others that are doing, who understands the urban environment and know how to compartmentalize the kinds of issues that our students are facing and still teach our children and still work through those issues. And so this policy gives us an opportunity to be able to make sure that we have people who understand an urban environment so that their ability to manage it in the classroom is far more effective, and their ability to make the appropriate decisions is much more effective. In other words, you don't want somebody who's just going to send one of our students or suspend him because he may be going through some issues at home. And so with employees in our district who understand that, I think that we will reduce our suspension rates, we will reduce behavior issues, and we will absolutely increase academic success, I believe. Just with what the work that Bernice has done over School 9, it dropped the behavior rate 70%. And so I'm looking forward to discussion of this policy with this board, because I really believe if we look, particularly when you have 80% of the students in this district who are from an urban environment, but you have employees who work in this district who don't have a clue about the urban environment, there is clearly going to be a disconnect, and I think that has been experienced in this district historically. And so I'm really excited about the fact that the board is going to consider this, and I believe that we're going to see some exciting things to happen as a result of this policy. So thank you very much.
Commissioner Cruz.
Thank you, Commissioner White. Commissioner White.
Yeah, I want to thank Chuck Johnson for the work that he did on the revisions to the responsible bidder policy. The language that you crafted, I think, went a long way to helping us come up with that proposed amendment. I also want to thank the Diversity Committee for helping us come up with the language regarding urban experience, because that was not a foregone conclusion. Those folks, I don't think anybody, Bethany is here. I don't see anybody else other than Chuck that served on that committee, but I want to thank you for your work on both of these proposals, because this is the manifestation of your hard work. And lastly, I would warn my colleagues and anybody else still listening that this work will not be accomplished unless we get our legislators in Albany to change the last in, first out. We can say all we want about how people ought to live in the city, employees ought to live in the city, and how our teachers ought to be more diverse. But if the law is that if you're the last person in, you're the first person out, and those folks have no protection, because the irony here is Bethany's predecessors worked very hard, and Jean-Claude's staff worked very hard to increase the number of African-American Latino administrators and teachers. And we saw a spike in employment of teachers of color. But they were the last ones in, so they're the first ones out. And I would bet, I didn't ask Bethany this, but I did ask her about the administrators. But I bet you a lot of those teachers that we're laying off, that are being let go, and they are teachers of color, because the prior administration worked hard on trying to diversify our ranks. So our efforts will be on a treadmill, guys. If we think by coming, and again, Chuck and Bethany and other members of that committee and Cynthia worked very hard on changing what we do here locally. But unless the state stands up and says, wait a second, stands up to unions and other interested parties and says, wait a second, we've got to calculate another way for making sure that districts like this have their fair share of people who are of color. And just so that folks are mindful, this isn't about making sure that black folks get teaching jobs and Latino people get teaching jobs, and so that black children can see black teachers and Latino children can see black teachers. This is so white children can have the benefit of America's greatness, which is diversity. They benefit by seeing us in the classroom, too. This isn't just a one-way street. We want more teachers of color because we want them. Everybody needs diversity in front of those classrooms. We're living in a global economy where most people don't look like us. And if you put before students a diverse teaching staff, that benefits everybody. So I would say to all those folks who are in Albany and those that want to go to Albany, this is something we really ought to be directing our effort towards, because it benefits all Americans, not just black and brown citizens.
Thank you, Commissioner White. Any other last comments on those two proposed informational items? Okay. All right. Let us go to the third portion of the new business, which is Resolution 867. Superintendent?
Yes, I would like if you can join me to receive a brief presentation. That they have been trying to have a discussion with the board about this resolution for quite some time. And if you can give us about 8 minutes to 10 minutes, that would be greatly appreciated.
Let me defer to Commissioner White.
Yes, I'm sorry, Vice President Cruz, and I can be very brief, and this is probably the right time to do it. I submitted to all my colleagues hopefully under new business, a resolution stated June 28th. It should be on your desk there. It basically, Commissioner Cruz, calls for the board to do what we've been saying we were going to do for quite some time. You all remember the uproar that we had over number 6 school before you got here, Dr. Vargas. We went down that road. It happened again. Your administration proposed the closure of 6 school, and this administration has now proposed, I think it's now part of the public record, the closure of number 16 school.
No, we never have proposed the closure number 6 school. Let me correct you, because this is extremely...
Please, respectful. Just be respectful. Just let me finish, and we can discuss it, not debate it. And if I've misspoken, I apologize. All I was trying to say is you had some concern about number 16 school and whether it was fit for our students, and I appreciate that and respect that. Whatever decision is made or whatever proposal is put forward, my proposal is very simple. It doesn't even reference number 16 school. It doesn't reference number 6. I was using it as an example that this board, an example that I think my colleagues and I talked about before you got here, Dr. Vargas. And so it was a concern of this board before you got here, which was we ought to have a process for closing down schools. There ought to be a protocol. There ought to be a superintendent's regulation that says if you're going to propose, whether you're Bolhan Vargas or Jean-Claude Bizarre or Bill Calla or Manny Rivera, if you're going to close down a school, this is the process that you must adhere by. You must talk to the Parent Advisory Council. She's gone. You must speak to the zone improvement teams. You must speak to let's say, the ESA committee. You must speak to the finance committee, because these things have financial ramifications. So all I'm calling for here, and this isn't the time to debate it or argue it, all I'm calling for here is that the board, in advance of any further closures or discussions about modifying or changing configurations of schools, that we have a process so that our citizens know what to expect. And Commissioner Powell and I were having a good discussion before this happened, and often you guys are caught in a tough spot. We want you to talk to us in advance before this stuff gets out in the public, and we appreciate that, the effort that you have to balance. When do you talk to the board and when do you put it out there in the community? But if this resolution says, this will help superintendents, because it'll say this is the process for closing down a school and this is who you must talk to first. And by the way, I say school-based planning teams, they should be part of that process. PTAs should be part of that process. But whatever the policy or finance wants to come up with, I would refer this to policy, Commissioner Cruz.
I will, there are bylaws. Do I have I can charge it to a
Yeah, you
committee,
can
right?
do
President of the board generally makes a charge.
Right, so I'll charge this to the policy committee for initial discussion, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you very much.
With regard to remanding it to other committees as indicated. Okay. All right, we're back to 867, Superintendent.
Commissioner Cruz, if I might, I just want to, because I have given you a report about school number 16, which had nothing to do with closing or opening school. It has to do with my obligation as your superintendent daily to examine the operation of this district. And what we found there is you have a report about what we found about the physical condition of that building and the feasibility for opening the school in September. And I urge you to, each one of you, to take the time and to read it and having a discussion with the ongoing discussion with the member of the school number 16 and that neighborhood, and also the parents from that community.
Duly noted. Madam Clerk, you received a copy of that report? All right, it's on record. All right, let's go to 867. I'd like to put a time limit on this of about 10 minutes, if we can, please. No more, no max.
Yeah, we're going to go downstairs.
We got to go down here?
Yeah,
Okay.
please. Thank you.
All right, so it's 8:31. You got till 8:41 to make it work. I'm going to call for a 5-minute recess so that we can get everything straightened out and allow people to do whatever they need to do. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening, Commissioners. We're here to seek the board's approval on the schematic design for school number 28. I will be really brief in introducing the gentleman behind me. To my right is Tom Renato, who is the Executive Director of the Rochester Joint Schools Construction Board. Immediately behind me is Mr. Pepin Asilian, which I'll take a little moment to introduce Pepin because he's a very important person in this process. The project management firm for the FMP is a joint venture between Gilbane and Savin. Savin is, to me, often forgot. Pepin is the lead person for Savin Engineers and the minority arm of the program management firm. Very, very important person to this project, as he's the project manager on this project. And the other gentleman is Mr. Short. He is the architect from Labella. So without further ado, I'll have Tom Renato give you some more specifics of why we need your approval in this resolution.
Thanks, Jerome. Good evening. Thank you, board members, for having us here tonight to present School 28. The reason why we're here tonight is in order to seek the board's approval for this design development phase of the School 28 project in order to maintain the schedule for going to SED and subsequent bidding this coming winter. And we'll talk a little bit more about the schedule implications in a few minutes. But originally, the School 28 project had been on the agenda for the board to review back in December. And that at that time, School 28 was pulled from that resolution because the design, which had been reviewed by town hall sessions and BAC sessions, we had received some pushback from the community and from the folks at the school with respect to the status of that design and the look of that design, how the design was proceeding. So it was pulled from the agenda from that resolution back in December. The entire design team regrouped, and we essentially rescoped the entire project. That project originally had called for a third floor addition, and that was the major design change. That third floor addition was subsequently removed from the project based on the feedback that we had received from the community, from the district, and from the staff at School 28. Mike will be presenting the redesign of that project tonight that shows you a much more reduced footprint. The third floor has been eliminated and replaced with several smaller additions around the perimeter of the building. And since December, that design process has taken place. We did receive sign-off from the BAC and from the RJSCB with the current design that you'll see tonight. And in order to maintain the rest of the schedule, we're seeking board approval so that the rest of the summer we'll be continuing with the construction document phase and with the intent to go to SED for approval at the end of August, correct? At the end of August. Following that SED approval, we will be bidding in the winter, and that will allow us to start signing up contractors, procuring materials that are long lead items in order to start construction as soon as we are able to in essentially July 1st of next summer. Part of the reason why we're bidding this winter and procuring materials early is because the schedule has been shortened for this project from a 24-month duration down to a 14-month duration. So there's absolutely no time to lose. We have to hit the ground running come July 1st of 2013 and have everything ready to go. All the contractors have to be on board. All the materials that could take 4, 6, 8 months to order need to be ordered and ready for that construction to start. The project is a complete gut rehab of that entire building, and we are compressing the schedule by 10 months. So that's why we're here tonight, to seek board approval. And I'll turn it over to Mike for a brief presentation on the current design of 28.
Thank you. Just to reiterate, the schedule is critical. The procurement and the increased cost of reducing it by reducing the cost is critical to the project. The school programs currently has bilingual map. We're keeping all those in there. I'm going to go through these really quick to keep on the schedule. We're providing, instead of a 16,000 square foot addition on the third floor, we're now providing 4 smaller additions equaling 8,000 square feet, a total of 5 new classrooms. We're removing all hazardous material from within the building. This is going to be a completely new building from the interior once you come to this building. The dark red that you see up on the screen, those are the 4 additions that I was talking about. One of them is a main entrance, a new stair tower, bringing an old stair tower that was not in code compliance up online. 4 new classrooms up on your right-hand side, and a small addition up in the front for facilities and maintenance. We're also re-engineering the site to increase parking, to reduce the burden on the community at large. This is an aerial view of what the site will end up looking like. We're trying to increase and improve the security at the building. Right now, anybody can walk into the building and get through out once the doors are open, and they can go anywhere without any regard to going to the main office. In addition, the kindergarten looks like the main entrance of the building. We're eliminating that look, and we're increasing the security at the main entrance, off in the middle of the image. We're also introducing colors and softening the edges to try and react to the community's comments. They had a lot of concern about this building being very harsh and very hard to the community. We tried to soften the building and bring the colors and bring the curves into the building to soften it in the community. Also improving natural light. All the classrooms, they have very minimal natural light. We are trying to improve the natural light into those classrooms, where the top windows are all new windows. Again, bringing natural light all the way throughout. In addition, we're also increasing the accessibility throughout the school. There's segregation of the 7th and 8th grade students from the lower grades and the kindergarten throughout the school. 7th and 8th grade is being housed on the 2nd floor. K through 3 is on the 1st floor, and 4 through 6 is on the 2nd floor on the north wing of the building in the yellow. These are just some images of the interior of the building. And I want to really reiterate that it is very critical to have this go through. The schedule is very critical, that if it doesn't happen, that reduction of 10 months to get the school ready and up and running in 1 year versus 2 years will be compromised. So thank you very much for letting me speak.
Use the phrase accessibility. You're talking about handicap accessibility?
There's several of the stairs are not accessible, several of the rooms. That is correct. Yeah, so we're increasing the accessibility, handicap accessibility. Correct. Thank you. Yep, that's fine.
When you say circulation, you mean physical movement circulation as opposed to air circulation?
Yes, that is correct. Yes, yes. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. We got the presentation ahead of time. It's really good. I love some of that kind of inside work with the openness and that kind of stuff, so some good stuff in there. Need a motion to...
Can I ask a question on the presentation first?
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I want to say congratulations to Mr. Short. I've seen previous designs. Some of them were elaborate, and elaborate was necessary to overcome ugly. This is truly impressive in the sense of, as you phrased it, softening the edges, and the natural light aspect makes it look a little less like a jail. The work that you've done to negotiate with the community, I know that if I might ask, the increased parking is all with the consent of the neighbors. We've got commitments that they're willing to sell off the back of their lots. No. Oh, you're not going into their lots? Because I know the neighbors were, contrary to our expectations, actually wanted to keep those extra deep lots. Genuinely, the architect work that you just showed us really threads a needle. Compared to past efforts, one of the aspects that you described is only 5 additional classrooms. That sounds like a significant downsizing of the full capacity that was originally proposed to us. If I might ask, does this reflect a reduction in the number of strands that we expect to go through the building? Please.
Yeah, please.
Because clearly there's still an effort to create a K-8 out of this, but we're not talking about adding a full wing. We're not talking about adding a 3rd floor. 5 classrooms doesn't sound like we're doing unless we're reducing the total number of strands.
The original concept called for K-8 3-strand. However, there was some deviations from that. There was the MAP program, which would have been a 4th strand, and there was also the ASD program, which was another strand as well.
ASD is?
Autism spectrum disorder.
Okay. And that would have been a strand going all the way through?
That's correct. The MAP program is staying. However, the MAP program is becoming part of the strands. So it's now K-8 3-strand versus K-8 3-strand up through 3rd grade, and then 4 strands from 4th grade and on. And then the ASD program has been relocated. So we have reduced the amount of students, in a sense, reducing the amount of classrooms needed.
Can I ask if, with this design schema, how difficult would it be to retrofit it back to a K-6 in future years?
I don't think it would be difficult at all.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a motion to accept 867 before we go on.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Elliott, seconded by Commissioner Campos. All right, any discussion on 867?
Mr. Chairman, I just want
Yes,
to
ma'am.
say, I mean, this is a resolution that I was fully prepared to reject, fully. In no small measure because we didn't need more capacity, and we didn't need to take a big school and make it bigger. My concerns have evaporated. What can I say? I still don't like K-8s, okay? And I'm going to have, and I'm just going to have to, for the record, indicate that my support for this going forward has nothing to do with it being a K-8 design. It has a whole lot to do with the fact that this is a building that needs to be gutted. This is a building that needs a facelift, although I'm gratefully not spending a lot of financial resources to do it. And it is a building that needs to be
Repair.
to be brought into that phase 1. It's part of our phase 1 agenda. We've got to find resolution, and you've done a beautiful job.
Thank you, Commissioner Fowler. Any other comments or concerns?
Let me briefly thank the board, because I know that you did a lot of listening to. When citizens say that we don't listen, I think this is a good example of that work. And the board, many of you brought it to my attention. Actually, I was the first week in the job, and I was Summit. Jerome and I were in a parking lot in there, and I said, what did I do wrong? and basically nothing. They just wanted to listen because we made a mistake to post the design without talking to them first. And they were all over my neck. I said, I don't even know how to use the computer to put that thing in the web page. But let me just say that the staff and everyone deserve a lot of credit for the patience that you took. And also, it's a win-win situation for everyone, and for the entire district, too.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Other concerns? All those in favor of Resolution 867?
Aye.
Any objections? Duly noted. All motions passed. There are no further speakers on any agenda items. Any announcements before we adjourn? I'm going to get to that one. You know, I'm not as far back as you think I am here. That being the case, our next business meeting is July 20th.
Motion to go into executive session.
Or can I announce what our next meeting is first, and then we go executive? Thank you, Madam Clerk. So our next business meeting is July 26, 2012 at 6:30. I need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Elliott. We will take 2.5 minutes to get downstairs, and then we will end the evening. Commissioner, thanks.
All right.
All right.